Hi. So, first YouTube channel, right? My name is Andy. And this is gonna be my first video. I'm putting out. Not really my first video, but it's more like I want to have a purpose of putting out videos. My name is Andy, and I currently work as a software developer. So most likely, my videos will be around technology, will be around programming. I actively program. I've got a couple of years of experience. So why did I decide to make this video? So I just felt like there's a story I need to share. I probably have a couple of experiences, and I've happened to work on a few projects, software development projects, and had situations where I felt like I needed to teach junior developers something. I needed to share some of my experience, and realized that there are actually many instances when I could actually share some of these experiences. So the first thing is, how did I get started? So I would say I grew up in Nigeria. So this was, way back. I grew up in Nigeria, and pretty much when I grew up, there weren't a lot of computers around then. So most times when you're growing up, you get asked, what do you want to be? So most likely you're going to look at careers that you see around you. So everyone is pretty much a doctor. Everyone is pretty much an engineer. Everyone is pretty much either a lawyer or you work in banking and finance. So starting up from a young age, you all realize you all just want to be a doctor. So the career path was always being a doctor. I have two parents who are doctors. So right from the family background, we are all headed towards the sciences. So, however, I didn't go into medicine, though I did start from the beginning hoping to get into medicine. But there were a couple of challenges. So back in Nigeria, back in the day, if you needed to get into medical college, you needed to write this exam, national exam, just like your SAT. Now, I had a problem with chemistry. No matter how much I tried to do well in chemistry, I had problems with organic chemistry. Okay, that was always my toughest subject, my toughest topic. So that resulted in the fact that I never made the cutoff mark to get into medical college. However, the university back in the day had a remedial system, which is more like sort of like a pre-college or after college course you could take. And that meant stuff like, when you do the course, if you do well in the course, you score a high enough mark, you get screened based on the course you're intending to do. But the problem is when you go through that field, you definitely can't read your high-level courses like medicine, some engineering courses. You're probably going to be doing what the university termed as a simpler set of courses. So computer science happened to be one of those courses that weren't really taken seriously, because back then the economy wasn't very computer aware. So we are looking at back in the year I finished secondary school 2001. So between 2001 2002, Nigeria wasn't really yet into IT. The only places with a lot of IT infrastructures happen to be banks. So if you're ever close to anything related to IT, you're most likely going to be working in a bank. So banks were the ones that had the computers, and if you're fortunate to have a family member, an uncle who works in a computer, who works in a bank, that may be only the closest you could get to a computer. So I finished my course. I decided I want to do computer science. But before I did computer science, how did I decide to do computer science? So I tried writing the national exam to get into medical college, and I failed 3 years in a row. Like 3 years in a row. And every time you fail, you have to wait 1 year to try again, 1 year, and every time I always got stuck when it came to chemistry, and my grades were never high enough to, cross over. Every other subject I was okay, but chemistry, well, I didn't like the chemistry teacher, but it was just tough. So, and very disappointing too. But when I started, there's a fly. When I started decided to do computer science, is because I met a guy who was doing his diploma in computer science, and he I sort of went through his books and I picked interest. And by then, I was just starting out playing video games. Video games started sipping into the part of the country I was in. Well, we didn't have the classic. By then, we didn't have the expensive ones like the Nintendo. They were really expensive. Like your parents had to travel, leave the country to go get a copy for you. So, you know. So anyway, I picked interest because of I love computer games. I said, okay, if I could learn this programming, maybe I could learn to design my own games. So that's how it all started. And well, I started reading this book. I went through my remedial course. I started doing computer science. When I got into, university through that program, the computer science was very maths oriented. Now my school didn't have a lot of facilities. So we had a lab with about 10 computers and they were like Pentium 2 computers. And as at then, I think we had the Pentium 4 computers out then, but they had like very old, like, I don't know, maybe Windows 5 or whatever, but we had like QBasic environments. So I got into uni, the computer lab. Apart from the computer lab not having enough computers, we also had infrastructural challenges. So back in Nigeria, we all know even till today, we have electricity isn't stable. And so that meant sometimes you want to go into the computer lab, there's no electricity to even turn on the computer. And there's no backup generator to power the computer. So I would say my 4 years of being in the university, I got into the computer lab maybe 4 to 5 times. Yeah, terrible. And it also didn't help the fact that I didn't have computers at home either. So they were really expensive. So I would say the first computer I had at home was in the late part of my 3rd year. And this was the year where we were getting to where you needed to think about your final year topic. And my mom got a computer because then in her career, she needed to do a lot of writing. Previously in the country, you had businesses that helped people type documents in Microsoft Word. They were like word processor shops, so you just pay people who just type your documents. So if you're going to write a paper, you first of all write it with pen, send the paper over to someone to, type it out for you. And as she brought it in, she had to learn, but I was a kid. I had a lot of time, so I was really on that. I wanted to do programming. So I started out with basic programming, QBasic. So it got to a point where towards my final year, and even though I had a computer, it was a lot better, but I still had the challenges of electricity. Now, back then, we had the way electricity was rationed. Where I lived, we usually had lights from 12 midnight to 4 a.m. So that means during the day, I'm writing out my programs I hope to try out. So I spent most of my time reading books. So I learned programming on books, then tried out programming exercises on pen and paper. Then when there's light, I run in, start typing before light goes out by 4 a.m. And once it's 4 a.m., the light goes out. I now have to sleep for 2 hours, then make it to class for 7:30 a.m. It wasn't fun. It wasn't and even though we had a computer at home, there was no internet. So that's a different story entirely. So the next thing was, as time went on, I did try programming. It wasn't the smoothest of experience, but it worked-ish. Yeah. Now, when it came to internet was really expensive. Today you can have the whole world on your mobile phone. Internet was pretty expensive, and we had to go to cyber cafes. And you had to buy internet time for an hour, and it was really expensive. However, it was cheaper if you go, let's say, if you buy a large chunk of hours, say over midnight when the business is less busy. So what happens is you get in there for 10, and the business pushes you, and then they lock the door. They pretty much locked you inside the cafe, and then you can browse for 6-7 hours. So that meant if you had programming challenges from Monday, on Friday, I stack up my questions and I go online on Friday and I look for maybe Stack Overflow, Google for answers, and maybe try them out. And we didn't have laptops, so I had to take my desktop and my monitor to the cafe and just plug it in. Yeah, it was really hardcore, and there was pretty much a community around that. And after that, I finished typing. I wouldn't still say I was really good at programming. I was just, someone who was very good at playing with computers. Then when I finished my university, I got a job as a teacher. And I was well, not like school teacher, more like IT training institute teacher. So I had to teach people programming, people who were trying to learn web design, people who were trying to do MySQL. People who wanted to learn MySQL at that time were more interested in data analytics. So I taught stuff like Dreamweaver. I taught people Dreamweaver, PHP. That was PHP 4 point something. And a bit of Microsoft Word, a bit of Microsoft Excel and Access. So when we taught programming, we taught stuff like database queries and stuff. And I did that for about 8-9 months. And after that, for 1 year, I picked up PHP, because I was teaching PHP and I was pretty much just reading ahead of the class, then spewing everything out. But sometimes we get into class and I'm trying to show a program and there are issues and I had to debug it there. I think at this time, internet was a lot better. I could have like internet on a modem, on a portable mobile modem, and it was a lot better then. So yeah, I was able to do a lot of things. My first laptop was more like a partnership between myself and my mom. So I saved up a percentage of it, though she paid the bulk of it. So I paid the initial deposit. I got the laptop, then she had to pay monthly over 6 months, I think. So yeah, laptops were expensive, and that's how I really started practicing programming. And then after my 1 year of teaching, I had to do my national service, and I was relocated to the capital of the country called Abuja. So if Abuja is the capital of Nigeria. And while I was there, I went to do my national service. And during my national service is where a company requested for developers. And I showed up. I sent in my CV, went for the interview. And this business, the guy who owned it, used to design websites, but he needed someone to add a bit of database dynamic thing to what he's doing. So I ended up going with my PHP. I didn't start PHP from the beginning, which is another story. I can tell you how I progressed maybe in another video. So I went into, I got the job. I got in there and I had to figure out how to make websites dynamic, So I ended up creating like a CMS, a content management system, before I actually knew what things were like WordPress or Drupal meant. I was just designing it based on intuition, making mistakes and then getting better at it. And yeah, that lasted for like a year. And after that, my service year was over. I had to get a job somewhere else. And that's how I, got my first job as like professional job as a .NET developer. So I did C# for 3 years. I did C# for 3 years. And I will tell you at this time, I was decent, taking shape. C#. The funny thing about the C# is I used to be a Java person, but back in Nigeria then, Microsoft owned the market, so and PHP was still very new. You could only use PHP for like freelance jobs. No company was really running PHP, and so that meant you had to be a .NET developer. So I picked up .NET like in a week. So what happened was I wrote this interview using Yahoo Messenger, and I knew Java because at university you taught Java. I knew Java. Then I read a few pages of C# and I could relate, convert the syntax. And when I wrote my interview, I was thinking in Java. I was trying to write C# code. And for what it's worth, I got the job offer. And when I got the job offer, that was the first time I actually loaded my Visual Studio environment. I've never seen Visual Studio before. And I pretty much learned C# on the job. It took like 2-3 months to get comfortable with it. And that's how it started. So what am I trying to say is sometimes your beginning may not be as smooth and easy as you would want. But I would say from when I started and now, it's a lot better. It's a lot easier to get into programming. There's a lot of materials. You have internet everywhere. It may still be expensive in some countries, but it's still accessible, at least personally. So from when I started to now, when I feel like I'm comfortable, I think it's taken almost 6-7 years. Yeah. So I started my first programming in 2007. Yeah, I would say 2007. And I would say from 2007, when I felt a little more comfortable and confident, is maybe 2015-ish. Yep. So it takes a long time. It took a long time of practicing, persistence. So many times you want to quit. So many times I felt like, maybe I could just be a musician and then forget about this programming thing. But yeah, there's a passion that keeps you going. That's what keeps you going. So no matter what your journey is, no matter how far back you think everything's impossible, I think keeping at it. I started out learning programming without computers. So I used to go to the library, just read a book, and one day hope to have a computer to try this program out. So that's how far back, things are. So I would say programming is really accessible. You could pick it up if you're interested, and you may not have everything, but yeah, if you keep at it, you could walk towards getting the things you want. So now I think I would say I'm okay. There's still a lot of things I need to do, but I'm pretty much, comfortable now. Where am I going to from now? So based on my current state of career, I think I've got enough programming experience. I'm now working towards acquiring more cloud-based skills. Everyone's talking about AWS, everyone's going serverless. So I'm currently working towards, studying a lot of AWS services. I mean, you could use them, but knowing them is a different thing. So really knowing how they work, how they couple together, the intricate details about it. So that's the main thing. So yeah, so what I intend to do is put up a lot of videos later on that show people coming up, things to level up in. So for example, I'm thinking of a topic about PHP, writing good PHP code. Topics like that, like not necessarily about frameworks. And because the way I see it, I know programming and I can pretty much pick up any programming language. What matters most is how you solve problems. And I'm at a point where it's not even the code that matters, but the communication around the code, how you communicate to fellow developers, how you communicate to marketing team, businesses. So I feel like I have those experiences I want to share, and I just want to make videos about it. So if you have a topic you want me to cover or have a question, I'm ready to do that. And I'll also try and release as much videos as possible. So if you could subscribe to the channel and let you know when I put out something else. And we'll be really grateful for every subscription. And see you in the next video.